How does the average Japanese household keep its lawn completely weed-free year after year for generations without a single bottle of weed killer, without a single call to a lawn service, and without spending a single dollar on products that promise to fix the problem forever but somehow never do? The answer is not a spray, it is not a powder, it is not even a tool you can buy. It is a way of thinking about a lawn that the Japanese have practiced for roughly 2,000 years. And once you understand it, you will never look at your weed problem the same way again. Why your lawn keeps losing the weed war? Let us ask an honest question. Why does your lawn keep losing? You pull the weeds in June. They are back in July. You spray the dandelions. The dandelions outlive the bottle, the summer, and possibly your patience. By August, most American homeowners have either surrendered completely or spent $200 on a battle that resets itself every single year. I have talked to people who have been fighting the same patch of clover since 1980. The clover is winning. The reason the battle never ends is simple. The entire Western approach to lawn weeds is reactive. Something grows, you kill it, something else grows. You kill that too. The lawn care industry loves this cycle. A customer who kills weeds but never prevents them is a customer for life. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just a business model. The Japanese approach starts somewhere completely different. Not with a weed, with a condition that allows the weed to exist in the first place. Change the condition, and the weed has nowhere to go. Weeds are not invaders. They are gap fillers. And a lawn with no gaps is a lawn with no weeds. The zero secret revealed. Shaimkiri. The core of the Japanese method has no single dramatic name, no ancient ceremony, and honestly, no Instagram moment. That is probably why it never went viral. It is a principle called Shaimkiri, which translates roughly as the closing off or the shutting out. Applied to a lawn, it means creating conditions so complete and so dense that weed seeds landing on your grass have no soil to reach, no light to germinate under, and no gap to exploit. The weed does not get killed. It simply never gets started. Here's the biology that makes this work. And it is worth understanding because once you see it, the whole picture shifts. A weed seed needs 3 things to germinate: light, bare soil, and moisture. Remove any one of those 3 and the seed just sits there. It does not die immediately. It waits. Some weed seeds can wait in the soil for decades, which is a frankly unreasonable level of commitment from a plant. But waiting is not growing, and a weed that never germinates is a weed that never becomes your problem. A thick, properly maintained lawn denies weed seeds all 3 requirements at once. The grass canopy blocks light from reaching the soil. The root system fills the topsoil so completely that there is no loose, open ground for a seed to anchor in. And the organic matter in a healthy lawn, soil absorbs and holds moisture in a way that feeds the grass, but starves the shallow-rooted opportunists trying to break in. This is shimekiri, not a product, not a treatment, a condition. And the entire Japanese method is aimed at building and maintaining that condition permanently. Before you can prevent, you have to reset. Now, before you can build that condition, you have to deal with what is already growing. There is no point in doing the prevention work on a lawn full of established weeds. They will just keep sending up new growth through whatever you lay down, and you will feel cheated, which is fair. So here is the reset step, and it matters that you do it correctly. The best tool for clearing lawn weeds is the same one a Japanese gardener has been using for 2,000 years. Your hands, deployed at exactly the right moment. That moment is the morning after a good rain, or the morning after you have run the sprinkler long enough to soak the soil to a depth of 6 inches. When the soil is soft and wet all the way down, a weed root does not fight back. You grip it at the base, right where the stem meets the soil, and you pull slowly and steadily straight upward. The whole root system lifts out cleanly in one piece. This technique is called kusamushiri, and it sounds almost too simple to be the answer, which is exactly why most people skip it, in favor of a bottle of something. But here's the thing about kusamushiri. When you pull a weed root completely out of a soft soil, it does not come back. Not from that root anyway. A weed that has been chemically killed above ground, but left intact below ground almost always regenerates. A weed with no root left in the soil is genuinely gone. Do not pull weeds from dry compacted ground. The top snaps off, the root stays behind, and you have just pruned the weed rather than removed it. The weed will be back in a week, and it will look smug about it. One passed through the lawn after rain, pulling everything you can find by hand gives you a genuinely clean slate to work from. It takes longer than spraying, it works better than spraying, and it costs exactly nothing. The soil preparation step. Everyone skips. Once the existing weeds are out, the next step is the one almost every American homeowner skips entirely, and it is exactly why the weeds always come back. Japanese households do not reseed a cleared lawn with the bare minimum of grass seed and call it done. They overseed heavily, deliberately, and with timing the American lawn care calendar almost never mentions. The Japanese call this tsuchikatame, ground firming. The goal is a grass canopy so dense it functions as a living seal over the soil beneath it. Here's how it works. In early autumn, the only reliable window for grass seed establishment in most climates, spread seed at 2 to 3 times the bag rate. This sounds wasteful. It is not. It is the entire strategy. You are not hoping the grass fills in over time. You are packing the surface so densely that weed seeds have no daylight, no bare soil, and no way in. Before seeding, top dress with a 1/4 inch of finished compost and rake it in lightly. Then water at sunrise every day for 2 weeks. Miss a week and you are starting over. By the following spring, the weeds landing on that lawn have nowhere to go. The living barrier, ground cover as a weapon. Here is where the Japanese method gets genuinely interesting because it borrows a technique from Japanese garden design that most Western lawn care advice has never considered. In Japan, the spaces between grass plantings, along path edges, at the base of trees, in the shaded corners, under eaves, are almost never left as bare soil. They are filled, always filled, with something low, something spreading, something that grows laterally and closes off the ground surface the way a lid closes off a jar. Creeping thyme along a path edge, sedum on a slope that drains too fast for grass to hold, mondo grass in the narrow strip between the fence and the lawn, and in the shaded corners where grass has always given up, moss, specifically cultivated, intentionally placed, extraordinarily beautiful moss. A healthy carpet of moss is one of the most effective weed barriers on earth. It grows so densely and so low that there is no exposed soil for the weed seed to land on. And it asks for almost nothing in return. No fertilizer, no mowing, no irrigation beyond what falls from the sky. Japanese gardens have been using moss as a ground cover for roughly 1,000 years. The West has been leaving bare soil in the exact same spots and losing to weeds in those spots every single year, and somehow still surprised about it. The principle at work here is the same as shimikiri. Fill the gap before the weed does. Every patch of bare soil in your yard is a vacancy sign for weeds. The Japanese solution is to never leave a vacancy. Walk your property right now and identify every patch of bare soil along the fence line, under the tree where grass won't grow, the strip between the driveway and the lawn edge. Every one of those patches is currently an open invitation. Plant something that spreads, fill the gap, the weeds lose their address. The mowing discipline that makes it all work. Now let us talk about mowing, because this is where most American lawns hand the weeds a significant advantage without realizing it. And it has been happening every single Saturday since roughly 1965. The standard American mowing height is somewhere between 2 and 2.5 inches. It looks neat. It looks like a golf course. It also scalps the crown of the grass plant, prevents the canopy from shading the soil, encourages weed seed germination by letting sunlight reach the ground, and forces the grass to grow shallow roots that cannot survive a hot week in July. Other than that, great technique. Japanese lawn care, adapted for Western grass varieties, sets the mowing height at 3.5 to 4 inches in summer and 3 inches in spring and fall. At 4 inches, the grass canopy casts enough shade on the soil surface that weed seeds sitting at a ground level simply cannot get the light they need to germinate. The lawn is doing the shimikiri work every day just by being tall enough to block the sun. There is a secondary benefit that compounds over time. Grass cut at 4 inches develops roots that grow 8 to 12 inches deep into the cool soil. Grass cut at 2 inches develops roots that stay in the top 2 inches, where they bake, dry out, and die the moment the weather turns. A deep-rooted lawn outcompetes weeds for moisture and nutrients at every level of the soil profile. A shallow-rooted lawn is in a constant state of mild stress, and stressed grass is exactly the kind of grass that weeds are waiting for. Set your mower one notch higher than you currently have it. Do it this week. You will notice the difference within a month, and you will not want to go back. Also, leave the grass clippings on the lawn after every mow. This is called grass cycling, and Japanese gardeners have been doing the equivalent of this for centuries without giving it a name because it was just obvious. The clippings decompose and return nitrogen to the soil. It is roughly $50 of free fertilizer per year that most Americans bag up, like haul to the curb, and then rebuy in synthetic form. I genuinely do not know how the fertilizer industry convinced an entire country to throw away free fertilizer and then sell it back to them, but I have to admire the audacity. The weekly 5-minute ritual. You tend the space. This is the part of the Japanese method that does the most work for the least effort, and it is the part that most Western lawn advice skips entirely because there is nothing to sell you in it. In Japan, there is a daily practice called soji. It is usually translated as cleaning, but the real meaning is closer to tending. You address what is there right now before it becomes something larger. Japanese school children sweep their own classrooms every day after lunch, not because the classrooms are filthy, but because a classroom swept daily never becomes filthy. The same logic applied to a lawn produces a result that looks almost magical from the outside, but is completely ordinary from the inside. The Japanese lawn ritual is this. Once a week, preferably the morning after a rain, walk the entire lawn slowly for 5 minutes. Look for anything new. A weed seedling at 2 centimeters in height can be pinched out with 2 fingers in under a second, and the root comes with it because the soil is still soft. That same seedling, left for 3 weeks, becomes an established plant with a branching root system that requires a tool and 10 minutes to remove properly. Left for a season, it seeds out and produces hundreds of new weeds that will be with you for years. 5 minutes a week. That is the entire maintenance load of a Japanese lawn once the system is set up. Not because the Japanese have fewer weeds landing on their grass. They have the same weeds. They just handle them at the size of a fingernail instead of waiting until they are the size of a fist. This is the compounding effect of small, consistent action, and it is the deepest expression of the soji mindset applied to a yard. The homeowner who tends for 5 minutes a week never has a weed problem. The homeowner who battles for a full weekend once a summer always does. What the internet gets wrong about this. Before we get to the seasonal calendar, let us take 30 seconds to be honest about some things the internet keeps getting wrong about this, because bad advice is everywhere, and some of it sounds convincingly Japanese, while being completely counterproductive. Pouring horticultural vinegar into your lawn to kill weeds will also kill your grass. Vinegar at any meaningful concentration is non-selective. It cannot tell a dandelion from a fescue blade. Do not do this in a planted lawn. Salt is even worse. Salt applied to lawn weeds will sterilize the soil around them and can travel through the root zone of nearby grass and trees. A Japanese gardener would no sooner salt their lawn than salt their dinner table and call it cleaned. The internet loves salt as a weed solution. The internet is wrong about this one. Chemical pre-emergence, the products the garden center recommends every spring to stop crabgrass before it sprouts, kill the beneficial soil fungi and nematodes that a healthy lawn depends on. You stop the crabgrass for one season, you damage the soil ecosystem for 3. The Japanese method builds an ecosystem. Pre-emergent chemicals dismantle one. They are pulling in opposite directions. The seasonal calendar. Here is the practical seasonal calendar. 3 small jobs across the year that replace every bag and bottle on the lawn care aisle. In mid-spring, top dress the entire lawn with a 1/4 inch of finished compost, spread by hand and raked in lightly. This feeds the soil microbiome, improves drainage, and adds a fine layer of organic material across the soil surface that makes it harder for weed seeds to make contact with bare earth. Total time, about 2 hours for an average lawn. In late spring or early summer, raise the mowing height to 4 inches and leave it there until the first cool nights of autumn. This is the summer shimikiri setting. The taller canopy does the weed prevention work passively every single day while you do nothing. In early September, oversee the lawn at twice the recommended bag rate, using a quality seed blend matched to your region and climate. The cool nights and warm soil of early autumn are the only reliable window for grass seed establishment in most of the United States. Overseeding every autumn is how a Japanese method lawn gets progressively denser and more weed resistant year over year. By year 3, the lawn is so thick that weed germination in the lawn itself has essentially stopped. That is the calendar. 3 sessions, roughly 6 hours total across the entire year. Cost breakdown. Let us talk about what this actually costs, because the number is slightly embarrassing given what most Americans spend. Finished compost for the spring top dressing, free if you compost at home, about $30 a year if you buy it. Grass seed for the autumn overseeding, about $30. A garden fork for the kusamushiri reset if you do not already own one, about $25 as a one-time purchase. The total annual cost of maintaining a weed-free lawn, the Japanese way, is somewhere between $30 and $60 a year. The average American household spends between $400 and $600 annually on lawn care products, many of which are actively degrading the soil they are applied to, which means they need to be reapplied every year in increasing quantities to get the same result. A lawn maintained the Japanese way gets easier to maintain every year because the soil improves and the grass density increases. A lawn maintained on synthetic programs gets harder to maintain every year because the soil degrades and the grass becomes dependent. Over 10 years, the difference in cumulative spending is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. That is a vacation. That is a used car. That is a lot of money to spend making a problem worse. Practical routine to start this week. Here is the practical routine you can start this week. This weekend, walk the lawn the morning after rain and pull every visible weed by the root using the kusamushiri technique. Take your time, get the roots. This is your reset. While you are out there, raise the mowing height on your mower by 1 full notch. That is your permanent new setting for the growing season. In the next 2 weeks, top dress the bare or thin patches with a 1/4 inch of compost and scratch it in lightly with a rake. In early September, buy a quality regional grass seed and oversee the entire lawn at twice the bag rate. Water at sunrise daily for 2 weeks. Then transition to 1 deep weekly watering. From that point forward, the weekly ritual is 5 minutes of walking the lawn after rain, pulling any seedling that has appeared by hand before it becomes established. That is it. That is the whole thing. The deeper lesson here is not really about weeds or grass seed or mowing height. Those are just the mechanics. The real lesson is about a way of thinking that the Japanese have applied to every space they inhabit, every tool they use, every surface they tend. The principle is this: prevent rather than fight. Fill the gap before the weed does. Tend the space, while the problem is still small enough to handle in a second, because every problem that gets a week becomes a problem that takes an hour, and every problem that gets a season becomes a problem that takes a year and $100, and the kind of frustration that makes a person stand in the lawn care aisle for 45 minutes reading the back of a bag that is not going to work. The Japanese approach to a lawn is not about effort. It is about timing. It is about catching things early, maintaining density, and understanding that a healthy lawn does not need you to fight its battles. It fights them for you. Your lawn does not need another product. It needs the right height, the right density, the right seasonal attention, and 5 minutes of your time once a week after it rains. That is what 2,000 years of Japanese lawn keeping actually looks like, and it costs nothing.